Welcome to the Tunabudget podcast, your source for insights into financial wellness. Today, we're diving into the hectic life, the great rat race. At Tunabudget.com, home of the Tunabudget worksheet plan and candid conversation memos, we offer resources that simplify budget life planning. We encourage discussions about real-life challenges affecting our finances. Don't forget to submit your own candid conversation memo at Tunabudget.com. Let's get started. Stuck in the great rat race of life? You say you can't get out of the mess you're in? A lot of people feel that they are trapped in the hamster wheel of daily life, spinning in circles, day after day with no end in sight. Some people really need to change, but the risks always seem to be too great. Maybe that is you too. It is indeed a great rat race out there for many people. True, there are several reasons for not being willing or possibly even able to get out of it. Many of them will be shared here. Change seems to only come when forced upon us, right? If changes are needed, wouldn't it be better to have controlled change experience rather than a forced one, where you are compelled to change? To find out more about your situation, just prepare your own Tunabudget worksheet plan as the right solution. It will show you A, how you got where you are in this great rat race, B, where you're at today, and C, what or how and when your future will be. Where you'll be, literally, can be pre-planned through your own private and powerful Tunabudget worksheet plan. It is the right solution because it's your solution. It will clearly show you and your spouse, if you're married or a partner, the best answer to all these three puzzle pieces. For now, and as you prepare for these changes, let's look at some of the many reasons people like you are stuck where you are. There are many risks and opportunities you're facing, right? And you may need to go bold. This is a big deal subject because it's one that needs to be addressed if you need to get out of the great rat race especially, or the 24/7 spinning hamster wheel, you might want to call it. Let's let some of this stuff sink in while you're preparing your own Tunabudget worksheet plan, and ask yourself, what changes am I or my spouse or partner really willing to make to get out of this mess? As you sincerely go through the exercise, you will readily see what sacrifices or changes must be made. The best part? You'll actually become excited and really excited to make these changes that usually take only a few months or so to make. Start pulling up the stakes that are tying you and your family down ASAP. A few of these risks could turn into opportunities. Just do what's best for you and your spouse or partner and your family and forget about all the rest. Otherwise, with 100% certainty, you'll grind out more years in the same old great rat race and remain stuck in the 24/7 hamster wheel. To build a base of understanding, though, let's go over some obvious good reasons why we generally choose to not change. First, is a major change in order with all the angst you and your spouse are having? Maybe you are currently weighing the pros and cons. For you, those good reasons might include having your children attending school in an established environment, one you don't want disrupted, like there's academic progress, social connections with all their friends, extracurricular activities, and the like. You believe there are also higher education opportunities in your area that will serve your children well in the future. You've got strong connections in your community with all the neighbors, organizations, all your support networks, all providing you with a sense of belonging, right? Great reasons to stay in the great rat race, right? Furthermore, you don't want to start all over in a new job maybe, or a career with you might have questionable insurance benefits, and maybe kiss goodbye to all the networks and the seniority and stuff, and that stuff, right? Undoubtedly, where you live has great amenities like healthcare facilities, abundant recreational opportunities everywhere, maybe even good weather, depending on whether you like the cold or the hot. And you just love the urban versus the rural living and all the natural surroundings, right? You want to avoid all the emotional taxation, all the stress and anxiety of having to adjust to all the new beginnings that are out there. So you retreat and you concede that your stability and surroundings are just fine after all. Then you think about family members. that they are all close enough, right? And really do provide emotional support, and maybe even watch your kids or your dog for you. And finally, you justify paying higher taxes in the city. It's expensive. There in the state, knowing that there are probably higher tax jurisdictions out there anyway, right? So why change things up? Simple. Because your Tunabudget worksheet plan showed that change is necessary. That's why. A rule of thumb for couples, right? This is really important as you go through this transition of deciding if you want to change up the great rat race, okay? A rule of thumb for couples. As you prepare your Tunabudget worksheet plan, while considering the options and sacrifices that will need to be made, please consider these calm down rules, okay? Calm down rules, okay? Number 1, a yes and a yes vote equals yes. Go forward and do not look back. A no and a no vote equals no. Don't go forward and don't look back. A yes and a no vote means no, or not now. Don't proceed. It's okay to look back later, but give it some time. Respect and entrust the process. This is a process. So yes, yes, go for it. No, no, stop. And a yes and a no, no. Okay? Slow down, wait. Or if you want to make it color-coded, you could say, if you guys see a red light on the decision, then hit the brakes and stop, for crying out loud. If you see a green light on the decision, then step on the gas pedal. And even if it's hard, right? Go for it. And if you see a yellow light on the decision, take your foot off the gas, slow down, be very, very careful. Or if you want a shortcut solution for all of this, ask your wife and say, you're probably right. Why? Because she probably is right. Because she is right, let's say. Now, personal growth and social dynamics. Okay, we're going to talk about some things here and offer you some thoughts for your consideration. Okay, let's call the first one the endless ambition treadmill. Okay, we're talking personal growth, social dynamics here. The endless ambition treadmill. Are you one of these people that have such a strong drive in your career that you can hardly sleep at night? How many hours per day are you at work or working? People like you must not really value your spouse and family as much as they think, because every hour you're not with them. Okay? It comes at their expense. Deep, lasting personal relationships are either there or they're not. Frankly, nothing is more important if you ask me. Perhaps working nonstop is a cultural value for you. I don't know. Maybe material success is highly expected in your family. If that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. But seriously, is that really living though? And at what cost? Be honest. The significant pressure to work all the long hours and achieve high levels of wealth and status is not really living, is it? Maybe there is too much unwarranted fear or a lack of self-confidence. And what about your leisure time? How long has it been since you've taken a real break? Are you leaving vacation time on the table all the time? Your ambitions could certainly be a core reason for your being in the great rat race for sure, right? Is it really worth it? Is there more living opportunities out there with your name on it? How about the next one here? The fear of change trap. People live in fear, sadly, but preparing a Tunabudget worksheet plan will help set aside that fear and turn it into energy. Nobody wants to face the uncertainty associated with changing jobs or careers. It may even feel paralyzing. The risk of losing a steady paycheck can be overwhelming when you come to realize that a change is in order. When change is in order, however, new doors will likely open and possibly lead to an even better opportunity. So put the fear away and get going with your Tunabudget worksheet plan. Be open to pursuing more fulfilling and possibly even more stable job opportunities. Surely you don't want to live in such fear any longer. This could be the time to move on. The choice is yours. How about the next one? The unseen burnout loop. This probably goes without saying, but you may be very well burned out already. Perhaps you're totally burned out and you can't even really see it. The toll of overworking may already be affecting your health, and you very well know that it is. Are you struggling to balance professional responsibilities with your personal life? Are you overworking, stressed, and burned out? If that's the case, there's no way your health isn't affecting your relationships too. In fact, to be candid, if this is happening to you, it's selfish to be ruining your health and your relationships because you're too stubborn to fix being burned out. Except on rare mandatory occasions, no one should be expected to sacrifice their health and relationships, right? Your Tuna Budget Worksheet plan will bring some sanity back into the picture, so get to work on it ASAP. How about the next one? The peer pressure carousel and the pride vortex. Another great risk because of your pride is the pressure to maintain your lifestyle to keep up with your friends, work colleagues, and even your neighbor. Also, your constant exposure to idolized versions of others' lives on social media platforms, they call it Instagram envy, right, is likely to create unrealistic expectations for your own life. People wonder all the time why they're not so happy, right? You have to wonder why they have dissatisfaction with reality. All this mess will, no doubt, put heavy pressure on your finances. You're spending way too much in the wrong places, and that's not living. That's being stupid and foolish. Do you really need to attend all those social events dressed with the latest fashions or dining out at all the fancy upscale restaurants? You know you're dumping the costs on credit cards that will be repaid someday, right? Yes, stupid and foolish if that's the case. As you sincerely put together your Tuna Budget Worksheet plan, you'll come to see, all by yourself and with your spouse or partner, what is important in life and what is not. So do the right thing and start really living. Living for your peers and colleagues is not living. It's phony, and you know it. Lavish lifestyles are for the foolish anyway if they only serve themselves. No more wasting time and money. It's time to really start living for real. So meanwhile, be honest and look at your purchases. Are you on a regular spending spree by purchasing more than what is necessary or sustainable? Are you valuing material possessions that may be a sign of pride that will result in unwarranted financial stress? Luxury living can easily mean empty pockets. The next would be the hobby drain trap. Ambitions are a good thing, but what about the insatiable desire for expensive hobbies or travel? How much money is your hobby really costing you and your family? By chance, are you working extra hours or between the two of you working like crazy to pay for all these things? That may not be a bad thing, but if you borrowed $50,000 on a timeshare or a nice vehicle, you may have sentenced yourselves to a multi-year bondage deal on that great rat race or hamster wheel. Look, we live in a world where there's constant exposure to sexy advertising, a world that values material possessions. There will always be constant pressures to do and buy expensive things. So what do you do about it now? You can start by completing your Tuna Budget Worksheet plan so you can see together how you got into this mess, where you're at today, and what, which means how and when, you can change things up in the future. That's the power behind this exercise. What in the world are you waiting for? Oh, you're late for your hobby. We get it, but you don't. The next one is the mortgage hamster wheel. People like you can be unsurprising when it comes to housing. You have lots of company, right? Didn't you stretch to get into the biggest, finest house you could possibly afford? Why? Because you wanted to show off and let the world see how successful you are, right? Being unwise, you bit off everything you could chew, needing two incomes to pay for it, as the large mortgage size in relation to your joint income proves it. Sure, you got into the house, but used more debt to buy all the goodies and all the benefits. But years later, as life unfolds, you realize that you may have not made the wisest decision on the house purchase. You didn't realize that your expenses would double, like owning a home is really cheap, right? And maybe even triple as the children grow up. Now you're caught, probably just like many of your friends and neighbors, in homes that they should not afford. In other words, you and they would be better off living in modest homes below your means, so there would be some cushion in the budget. The cushion would allow you time to get rid of all your debts, build up savings and investments, and even attack the mortgage itself. Not to mention spending some great times and creating memories with your family, your spouse or partner. Now you're facing a lifetime commitment on the mortgage hamster wheel, and there's no way to get off of it, right? Still unsure? Ask people who have been in their homes 10 years and compare their original mortgage balance to the current balance. In many cases, after multiple refinances, you may be surprised to see that they've borrowed against their homes and owe the equivalent of another $10,000 a year or $800 a month for each of the past 10 years. If that's not a mortgage hamster wheel, what is? But there is a way to get off of it, okay? Your Tunabudget worksheet plan will help you see or realize why you're in this mess in the first place, where you're at today, and what and how and when you can change things up in the future. So yes, you may conclude that you must sacrifice your home, pay off all your debts, and start over, maybe in the smallest house you can find, all things considered, or just rent. So get to work and get off the mortgage hamster wheel. Again, are you tired of racing around and dizzy from the spinning yet? Well, maybe not, but you will be. We can all get worn out, but there's no need to go there. It's just too risky. You don't want to be unexpectedly hit with the pressures of a job loss or sickness, etc. Act before you jeopardize your opportunity to land on solid ground, okay? After all, the hamster wheel is not taking you anywhere. Life is short. Housing markets shift too, as you know. It can become too late. Time to change and live, even if you choose to start over. Next would be the family financial burden, or and maybe community service, right? Responsibilities to provide care for family members can also keep you in the great rat race. I know that sounds strange, but it's true. You need to be there for extended family members, right? They depend on you. You have to keep up your work so that their needs are met. Yes, that's making a huge sacrifice on your part that is to be commended. As the population ages, more and more people will find themselves caring for elderly relatives, which is going to add emotional and financial responsibilities. In addition, opportunities to serve others through community service or social events, or even volunteer work can also fill many hours of your life. There's something to think about too. You are important too. You have a life to live, and you have needs and desires. How about taking a few minutes to just sit down, put together your own Tunabudget worksheet plan to see what changes really need to be made, or any adjustments to enhance your own life experience. You're important too. Okay, like I said, if you're a caregiver or a service provider, taking a closer look at things may be just what you need at this time. Change is okay. Change is good. And your Tunabudget worksheet plan is the most effective tool you have at your disposal because it is your plan. All it is what you want. Okay? Do you get this? This short ad is sponsored by the Debt Crisis Problem Podcast. Attention listeners. Please join us at Tunabudget.com to tune into the Debt Crisis Problem Podcast, where in plain English we discuss the 20 risks that could soon fuel a serious economic downturn. So we explore these critical risks and offer practical insights for navigating financial uncertainty. Join us for thought-provoking discussions that encourage transparency and awareness. Subscribe now to stay informed and be ready for whatever comes next. The next big section would be the economic challenges and financial literacy, okay? Another few thoughts and some questions for consideration, okay? The economic roller coaster. What's often quite surprising is where people, possibly yourself, make long-term decisions thinking everything's going to be hunky-dory for the next 30 years. For example, they overbuy on their housing, right? In other words, the mortgage. Not giving it a single thought that they could lose their job and not be able to make the 360 mortgage payments on time every 30 days for the next 30 years. And the same goes for that nice car you just bought, right? Like a roller coaster, okay? The economy goes up and down, though, along with the labor markets and all the jobs. If you've been laid off for a year or so without having a decent job all that time, you know what can happen. Newsflash, fluctuations in the economy will often create job insecurity. So it's best to be wise, and when using debt, buy something modest. You define what modest means because you're going to be the one living in it. Some people they equate a modest mortgage payment comparable to market rents, but you decide. Make these decisions as if it was something more than a simple economic dip. Okay? Have you ever considered a full-blown debt crisis in the U.S.? And what would happen to your job and financial wellness were that to occur? Interesting, even sobering, right? Remember, the mortgage, auto, and credit card payments still need to be paid on time. Okay? Children still need to be fed and cared for. Meanwhile, you decide to work harder, work out of fear of becoming unemployed because you don't have a cushion in your budget. You don't even have an emergency fund to cushion against a potential job loss in the first place. And these mortgage payments, they got to come from somewhere. And now you're definitely stuck in the great rat race, right? Now throw on top of this the impact of inflation, price hikes, and a salary that isn't keeping up. Perhaps it would be wise to quickly prepare your Tunabudget worksheet plan and see where you're at, how you got there, and what you can do about it. The risks out there are only going to increase, so the sooner you get to it, the better, right? Another area to think about would be the financial illiteracy sinkhole, because too many people don't have a clue as to what's going on, and with their finances too. Are you one of these people? Frankly, it's possible they don't even care, but they will care soon enough. As a result, they make poor and unwise decisions that result in living paycheck to paycheck, not avoiding debt, not saving enough, and so on. Even student loan debt can be a significant burden that delays other life goals, right? We've seen that, and requires a focus on earning rather than on personal fulfillment or happiness in marriage and raising a family. There's certainly nothing wrong with attending a less expensive community college or trade school that keeps costs down, right? People can also self-train and start their own businesses too. Loading up on student debt at a young age can keep you in the great rat race for sure. Also, thinking you have to live in the best area can also become problematic due to the high cost of living. It means you and your spouse need to work full-time jobs, sometimes in a high-stress environment, just to afford the necessities. Sounds like lots of fun, doesn't it? Until the glamour wears off. The next thing you know, you're sinking in the credit card quagmire along with your student loans, and to top it off, you're stuck in a higher-paying job that you can't stand. Talk about a giant rat race. But you're not alone, you know that. You fall for lifestyle creep, where suddenly you're spending on non-essential items like dining out, vacations, luxury goods, perpetrating that need for a high income. Next, because you have a competitive career, you feel the pressure to outperform your colleagues, which means working longer hours and sacrificing your time with your spouse and family, as well as all your own personal time. Okay? Let me rub it in a little bit more. In many places, as you know, the office building lights they're mostly on well into the evening, as few go home at 5 o'clock anymore. You see that everywhere. What's an extra 3 to 4 hours, right? Maybe you're stuck in a job that doesn't fully utilize all your skills or education, and you're not just satisfied there either. It's funny how fast all these things can just start to happen all of a sudden, right? It just happens. Maybe you're older and worrying about having enough money saved for retirement. You're working well past the age when you wanted to retire. Yes, what a mess. The great rat race can be ugly. Regardless of where you are in the race, maybe it's time for you to prepare your Tunabudget worksheet plan and start making some more sense of your life and where you've been and where you're at and where you're going. Yes, that sounds like a good idea to me, so get to it now. Another major section that we want to take a closer look at would be the workplace and all the technological evolution things that are going on. Again, a few thoughts and questions for consideration. The first one in this area would be the tech tie-up trap. So are you trapped at work? And who is not on their smartphones at least 24/7? Okay? Or at least they're available? Blurred are the lines between your work and your personal life, right? Does your company reward you for working long hours or expect you to be constantly available to the point you feel you'd be jeopardizing your job if you step back? How much time do you spend trying to keep up with all the rapid technological changes that require your commitment to continuously learning and training? Maybe you are full of anxiety by the threat of being replaced by automated systems or AI, artificial intelligence. It's not surprising that you may be working a ton of overtime to prove your indispensability, right? These concerns are certainly warranted, but that doesn't mean that you have to face the future with uncertainty. Start with your own Tunabudget worksheet plan and see for yourself where you're really going, what you really think about all these changes, and what's in your best interest. Let's start getting some of that anxiety to go away and focus that energy on something new or different, perhaps. Maybe even use that energy to start up and run your own business. Who knows? If you're going to work at all those long hours, how about working for yourself and de-stress a little bit along the way? Another major area for consideration in the hectic life and the great rat race would be health, well-being, and life planning. Again, a few thoughts and questions for your consideration. First one would be rising medical and child care costs and the stress. Your health care expenses have been on the rise, right? You feel stuck with the job that you have, and there's certainly no way that you can get out of the great rat race there, right? You need those good insurance benefits, don't you? Even if you're unhappy at work. Also, because of the high cost of child care, that it can be prohibitive. Both you and your spouse are forced to work full-time jobs and even some additional jobs to cover these expenses. You wonder if there's nothing more to life than working all the time just to try to keep up with it all. How could you possibly get out of this rat race? At this point, you know inside that you're caught up in some sort of invisible stress spiral that is not going away anytime soon. So you endure the rat race day after day, year after year, knowing that it will change someday. You choose to ignore the heavy mental health issues you're facing every morning when the alarm goes off. But there is a solution, your own solution. If you wanted to, you could also choose to prepare your own Tunabudget worksheet plan and see what you might do to give yourself the attention you and your family need. Haven't you had enough yet? No? Oh well, it's your choice. It will be there for when you want to change your mind. Keep in mind you're paying a very high price for staying in the great rat race, while the Tunabudget worksheet plan is 100% free. Simple, free. What's better? The next would be the tuition trap. So you value higher education, right? And you're even willing to take out expensive loans, or even as a parent, you work forever to pay your child's education. And you want the best possible education for your child and end up working more in order to afford private schools or other college funds. What about the pressure to obtain higher degrees for better job prospects, right? Of course, more time of school leads to even more significant student funding or debt and delays entry into the workforce. And don't forget the cost to fund all the costly extracurricular activities, believing it will give your child a better head start in life, right? These noble intentions are all great and wonderful. Such commitments only cement your commitment to stay in the great rat race. It would not be surprising that after you prepared your Tunabudget worksheet plan, that you ended up with a different strategy. You may go into best efforts mode and decide to make some changes because your first responsibility is to yourself. Remember that proverbial airline instruction to put on the oxygen mask on yourself first and then assist your child with their mask? You also know that if you're not there for your child because you didn't put on your oxygen mask for yourself first, but for the child first, and you passed out, it will do no good for your child too. Both of you will pass out, or worse. It usually doesn't end well if you can't breathe. So don't overhelp your child if you shouldn't do it. Use your Tunabudget worksheet plan to find out the right or best approach to helping a child. Avoid the tuition trap at all costs. Just like properly using an oxygen mask during a flight. Use it to get out of the great rat race if needed. Your child will survive. What would you think if your own now adult child prepared his or her own Tunabudget worksheet plan and decided to not pursue a career after all? And another big segment of the great rat race and the hectic life would be the societal infrastructure and in the environmental impact. Again, a few thoughts and questions for your consideration. The first one would be rapidly changing environment for the worse. Maybe your dream home or city is quickly changing due to poor conditions and environmental risks, societal values and norms, increased crime, or becoming too politically divisive. You now must worry about your safety and well-being, right? Including your job because of potential economic downturns. Suddenly, the cost of living in, say, an urban area make it unaffordable and requires a higher income to afford the city life, right? Housing costs have risen dramatically, and the high interest rates now make mortgages and rent a significant financial burden, if even at all possible anymore. To secure your job and possibly advance in your career, you relentlessly pursue a promotion by working endless hours, even if your stress and workload are overwhelming you. Maybe you're unsettled about losing your job because you're worried your job will be outsourced overseas, so you work even harder and longer. High costs have caused you to increase credit card debt, and you feel that additional burden as interest rates increase further. You're also nervous and aware that all the market volatility and instability in the news, okay? You wonder about things. So start your Tunabudget worksheet plan now. Boy, we've covered a range of reasons, and very good reasons, why people are stuck in their own hectic life or their own great rat race, and hamster wheels are spinning around. They just can't get out of it. And frankly, I believe the best way to do it is to get a Tunabudget worksheet plan out. If you're single, fill it out. If you're married or with your partner, fill it out. List everything on there. Give it some time. Be patient. Be respectful. And just see if it isn't time for some kind of change to take place and maybe get out of the great rat race, right? The greatest, most sharpest tool there is that power to decide, the ability to choose. So that's what the Tunabudget worksheet plan does. It allows you to see it. You spread your entire life out for a year, because as you put in the finances or the expenses, those numbers, you pre-spend in your life basically, you're going to know where your life is going, and you're going to make some changes. Hey, let's change this up. Let's put something different in here. Let's just look at it. It's on paper, right? And that's where the power comes in, and then the changes are made, and you can get out of the hectic life. Okay, so I've got some candid questions for you, okay? Being totally honest, is the decision to get out of the great rat race more of a willingness problem versus an ability problem? Do you truly understand the full cost you're paying for the mental, physical, and emotional, and possibly spiritual toll of being stuck in the great rat race? And what about your spouse and your children? Are you willing to prepare your Tunabudget worksheet plan just to see what options or like sacrifices or changes could be necessary to be made so that you can make these changes? Next, and lovingly sit down and counsel together with your spouse or your partner as your equal partner, right? About all these options and the sacrifices that you folks might make. And finally, do you realize that real living starts when there's unity and harmony in your marriage, if you're married, right? Thank you for joining us. Today we explored the hectic life, the great rat race, highlighting the importance of open conversations in financial wellness. We want to hear from you at Tunabudget.com. Please submit your own candid conversation memo and share your insights. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe for future podcasts. Until next time, visit Tunabudget.com for your free Tunabudget worksheet plan, the most powerful budget worksheet plan in the world. Yours. Thanks again.